Hey, I'm Gory B Movie, and I'm a horror addict, and today I'm reviewing Body Bags. So welcome to my Shocktober Day 8 review of Body Bags from 1993. Now, Body Bags is an anthology horror film that was originally intended to be a Showtime pilot, but Showtime pulled the plug, so now we just have it as a movie. It's a collection of 3 stories. The first 2 are directed by John Carpenter, and the last one is directed by Tobe Hooper. The movie is written by Billy Brown and Dan Angel, who worked on the Goosebump television series and a number of the Goosebump TV movies. Story-wise, this is a mashup of comedy, horror, and science fiction, all set to a score composed by the one and only John Carpenter. So is this 1993 film worth revisiting? Well, I'm going to give you guys a rundown of the plot, and then we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the gory. So as I mentioned, this is a collection of 3 stories hosted by John Carpenter as the coroner. He's going through the morgue and he mentions that the bodies with sheets on them are the ones that died of natural causes.
More natural causes. I hate natural causes. Give me a big old stab wound to poke around in, then I'm happy.
But the ones that are in body bags,
See if it's murder or suicide or a nasty accident, they put them in these bags.
each of the body bags he opens leads us into a story starting with The Gas Station. The Gas Station is directed by John Carpenter, and it's about a woman who's starting her first day on a new job as a gas station attendant. Now, she's done this job before, so it shouldn't be a big deal, but on the news she hears that there's an escaped mental patient from Haddonfield that is cutting people up.
Police believe the woman to be another victim of a serial killing.
I'd be scared shitless working all alone in a place like this.
I can take care of myself.
She tries to get through the night as calmly as possible. She's a college student, so she's just gonna do her homework and mind her own business, but numerous bizarre characters approach her throughout the night, and she keeps wondering if any one of these people is the escaped mental patient. The second story is called Hair, also directed by John Carpenter. This one is a little more Twilight Zone-esque in feel. It's about a man who's insecure, he's balding, his hair is thinning on top, and he becomes obsessed with trying to find a way to get his hair to grow back. And he tries everything. He paints over the spot, he wears a toupee, and everything he tries just looks ridiculous. Then he sees an advert on the television that promises to give him a full head of living hair.
No painful NFE transplants, just a full head of beautiful living hair.
He's desperate, so he's willing to give it a shot. He checks it out, and the ads are right. He gets a full head of living hair.
It's hair. I have hair.
But as you might assume, there's a catch. The final story is The Eye, directed by Tobe Hooper, and as you would expect from Tobe Hooper, this one's a little more grisly than the other 2 stories. This is a little more in league with maybe Tales from the Dark Side or The Outer Limits.
This may make you a little tense. It made someone a little past tense.
It stars Mark Hamill as a minor league baseball player who is in a horrible car accident that causes him to lose his eye. But help comes while he's in recovery at the hospital, and his doctor, played by Roger Corman, says that he can try a new experimental transplant to give him a new eye.
I just received a healthy donor eye. It's an excellent match for your size.
The surgery is a success, but then he starts to have these bizarre impulses and visions connected to the eye that he discovers belonged to a serial killer. I have to admit, I fangirled out over this movie quite a bit. There are so many amazing horror cameos. You've got Tobe Hooper playing a mortician, directors Wes Craven and Sam Raimi, David Naughton from An American Werewolf in London, special effects artist Greg Nicotero, and Debbie Harry from Blondie in the Tales from the Dark Side movie. And of course, I loved John Carpenter as the coroner, the host of this anthology. I've never really seen him act a lot before, but he was fantastic in this film. He was very funny, very cheesy, reminded me a lot of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. He had that same punny, goofy, gallows humor that I adore.
Does anyone have anything to share? What a bunch of stiffs.
And overall, the performances are fantastic throughout, though I was really impressed by Mark Hamill in The Eye. He was fantastic, and he really goes to some dark places in that story. Being that Mark Hamill was involved in a car accident in real life that required reconstructive surgery on his face, I imagine the story hit pretty close to home for him. I also love that the gas station connected to the Halloween universe with the mention of Haddonfield and an escaped mental patient that I can only assume is Michael Myers. I really enjoyed this movie, so I had to search hard for some criticisms, and the ones I found are pretty nitpicky. There is one part in The Eye where Mark Hamill's character is researching something on the computer about the serial killer that his eye belongs to, and he's reading it out loud in the library.
In conversations with police, Randall referred to himself as the devil.
This is something we see a lot in movies, but it's something that always annoys me. The other thing was the effects were pretty hit and miss. Now keep in mind this was made in 1993 and it was a TV movie, but by today's standards, the creatures that we see in hair look pretty silly. Now with a movie called Body Bags, directed by John Carpenter and Tobe Hooper, and having all of these amazing horror cameos, you would expect a pretty high body count, but sadly there are only 2 on-screen kills in this movie. There are loads of dead bodies and one death that seems imminent, but the on-screen violence is remarkably low. Particularly since this is a rated R movie, there's a decent amount of bloodshed, but I expected more. We do get a bit of blood in the first story, the gas station, but it's of that pinkish reddish Dario Argento variety that looks more like paint than blood. Now I think the scariest thing we see in this anthology is violence against women. In the segment The Eye, there is a sex scene that very quickly turns into a rape scene that's pretty brutal. Now I'm not talking I spit on your grave levels of uncomfortable, but there is a lot of thrashing around and Mark Hamill's character is seeing what looks like a dead woman beneath him. And you get to see a lot of Mark Hamill's ass, so whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave up to you. One thing I was really impressed with was the makeup effects, especially the car accident in the eye. You see a giant glass shard like shoved through this man's head. It's pretty gnarly. And at one point in the anthology, we get to see a cadaver with his chest opened up for an autopsy, and we get to see all the gooey gore inside. It was pretty awesome. As far as scares go, I think The Eye is by far the scariest story in this anthology, but The Gas Station is a good runner-up. I don't think Hair is scary so much, but it did play up well for laughs. So, should you see it? I loved this movie, so I'm gonna have to say, own it. It's just good, cheesy fun, and the horror cameos alone make this a film that you're gonna want to revisit regularly. I, for one, am surprised that it took me so long to hear about this movie and get around to watching it. This was my first viewing, and I had a blast. So if, like me, you enjoy a fair amount of cheese with your horror, you're gonna really enjoy this. I highly recommend this to fans of John Carpenter, Tobe Hooper, Wes Craven, horror anthologies like Goosebumps and Tales from the Crypt, and anyone who's looking for a good, campy horror fest. But I want to hear from you guys. Have you seen Body Bags before, or has this one somehow slipped past you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And stay tuned because I'll be back very soon with a Shocktober review of Phoenix Forgotten. Thanks for watching. Cut!
Yeah.